Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for My Happy Marriage Season 1 on Netflix. And I actually really enjoyed this anime, even though at the end it kind of went a little bit nutty, but I still like the overall concept of it. It's like, turn of the century, like 19th century Meiji restoration with some supernatural elements. I really, even though I'm into sci-fi and fantasy and all that kind of stuff, I really think that this would have been better if it just focused on the kind of characters and the setting and just kind of did that kind of thing without needing to do the whole kind of bit. Though granted, it factors into like the political intrigue of what's kind of going on. So we're introduced to Mio, the main heroine character, and she's in the Saimori family, and they pretty much treat her like dirt. She doesn't have any supernatural gifts, and her stepmother hates her. Her stepsister treats her like shit, and her father just lets them get away with this. She's pretty much treated like a servant, like but even kind of worse. I mean, most of the servants aren't physically abused like she is, or having certain kind of physical effects that she has from her mother, who died, destroyed by the stepmother. But we see that she is to be used as an arranged marriage for Kyoka Kudo. Let's see if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Yeah. And it's another kind of powerful family. He pretty much runs out the other kind of fiancés because of his like cold demeanor and everything, and we kind of see that that's not really going to be the case here with Mio. She just kind of wants to get out. She also has this other friend that tries to help her, but he is instead going to marry her stepsister Kaya and create ties with that. But the thing is, we learn that she has Usaba blood, and that pisses off the friend's father because he wants that kind of power. Because we learn later on that the Usabas, they are a family that have supernatural gifts that are usually used to combat people with supernatural gifts, like Kyoka Kudo, who has more kind of a control of mastery of evidently pyrokinetic, but he's able to utilize lightning and everything like that. And there's this whole stuff of like spiritual grotesqueries. He's in the anti-grotesqueries unit and is a pretty high commander with that, befitting his status and his powers. And we see that whole kind of thing playing out. We see that her friend's father tries to pretty much get Mio to renounce and say that she doesn't want to marry Kudo, but she stands firm with that. She actually gets kidnapped. She's working pretty well, and we see that Kyoka Kudo is not an asshole. He tries to figure out what's going on with her, actually investigates, and gets pissed off at the Saimori family, and says, you know what? You need to apologize to her, or otherwise, fuck yourselves. So I do applaud him for that. We do get good interactions between Kyoka Kudo and Mio as they are coming to terms with each other and trying to see how they feel about each other. And Mio trying to do her best to work with Kudo and try and be the best kind of fiance and see how her feelings kind of lead out. We do see that, of course, after the kidnapping thing, and of course Kaya wanting to be married to Kudo instead, beating on her and trying to get her to renege on the arranged marriage. Sorry, jeez. Let's see here. But of course, Kudo pops up and starts going whole hog. Well, not whole hog, but like, I'm gonna get my fiance. And then the friend's father pretty much actively making a fighting scenario and burning down the Saimori family's house in the process. Is like, you fucking asshole. This, of course, then forces Kaya to then go work in another kind of family's kind of home. See how she can kind of get out, because she was the favored kind of child by the stepmother, because biological. And then that's kind of the last that we see with her for a while, because there's only 12 episodes here, and that takes up about the bulk of the first couple. No media. And the animation is very well done here. Definitely gives me kind of vibes of Violet Evergarden, but it's not completely on that level. Like, that goes for real realism of that kind of world and the kind of steampunk kind of aspects. Here, it's still nicely detailed, but not to that level, but that doesn't mean that it's bad. It's still nicely detailed and it still presents the world. It's just, I really like Violet Evergarden's art style. And I'm not saying that this is bad. It's almost like when anybody asks me about like a favorite band, it's like, okay, my favorite's AC/DC. Does that mean that I think Van Halen sucks? Hell no. Does that mean I think that Led Zeppelin sucks? Hell no. It's just, I really like AC/DC. And I really like Violet Evergarden. But it's just because that art style really speaks to me. And this art style speaks to me as well, just not on the same kind of level. And we get a little bit more CGI detailing with what's kind of going on with the grotesqueries and everything. We transition and we pretty much get to all the stuff that's dealing with the kind of gifts and everything. Because once that's kind of done and her kind of being done with the Saimoris, we also see her doing the kind of thing with a hair tie for Kudo. Because he gets her clothes and everything, gets her a different kind of comb that's kind of similar to the one that her mother gave her. And just seeing them kind of having their small kind of interactions with each other is just very nice to see. It works very well without feeling kind of like emotionally manipulative of like, oh, okay, this is a sappy kind of love story. This is her swooning on him and him swooning on her and all that kind of stuff. It feels natural and organic. It's the execution of it that matters. That's why there's a difference between like that kind of thing of just, oh god, where it's like you feel that the characters are getting behind it because Mio wants to do a nice thing for him, he wants to do a nice thing for her, and having these things be kind of cornerstones of their relationship, because the hair tie becomes an important kind of bit detailing with what goes on later on. Let's see here. So the second aspect then details with this like weird kind of thing of like grotesquerie kind of holding places being broken open by this weird kind of group. And we see Kyoko Kudo and some of the other kind of military people meeting with the kind of Emperor's son. He's got a foresight kind of ability to look into the future, and we learn that the Emperor is trying to keep the Kudos from becoming too powerful and utilizing the Usaba kind of dude to try and get Mio back. This is where it gets a little bit nutty doodah. I think it would have been better if it was just played as straight kind of politics kind of things, because we learned that the Emperor was pretty much, he lost his sight and decided to like go whole ham hog after them, and we learned that Mio actually does have a gift. She is having a horrendous time trying to sleep, and Kudo is investigating that as well. So what the fuck is going on here? And this, of course, leads this Arata? Because this Arata dude is part of a kind of civilian kind of agency, but that works to, like, kind of talk, like, this... They didn't focus on it much, but he kind of liaisons to help the military talk with the Emperor about this kind of shit. But that's kind of a kind of shell game. He is trying to pretty much marry and protect Mio, because that's his purpose and that's his duty, as we learn that, because she's getting really fucked up. She's trying to train for this pretty much social gathering, which we get at the end, which is really kind of nice to see her and Kudo kind of deal with that. But we see that everything's kind of laid out. The Usabas, by her grandfather. The Usabas were on kind of hard times, so Mio's mother decided to go marry into the Saimoris to kind of get everything kind of back, but she was sickly, Chan Mio, and she dies. But not before sealing Mio's power of Dream Sight. And this is supposed to be uber powerful because you can then influence people in their dreams. This kind of has a plot accelerated demands kind of feel towards the end because Mio pretty much uses her powers without having any kind of training whatsoever and like kicks ass and takes names. I don't have a complete, like, it's not complete level of her going complete. She is God tier now, but it was fast enough that I'm like, she should have just been able to pull him out, even though they're trying to utilize this dream space to deal with Kudo's problems and Mio's problems at the same kind of instance, because they were trying to figure out how to help her. She was getting better at the Usama residence. We have a duel between Arata and Kudo. Kudo loses, and Mio said she didn't care, but she's like, she really does love Kudo. And Arata's pissed off at this. It's like, I understand wanting to have a purpose, but this was pretty much a direct edict from the Emperor. It's like, alright, I understand trying to make sure that supernatural powers and wealth and concentration of that stuff into another family's control is frowned upon, but we needed more kind of information and time spent with the Emperor to kind of get that kind of effect. 12 episodes is not enough to kind of like let that breathe and become the kind of focal kind of antagonistic part at this juncture. However, we see that the grotesqueries are growing to such a kind of number, and that actually the Emperor was kind of behind it. It's like, what the fuck? And Kudo fights them, but he gets gravely injured, and Mio decides to utilize her powers to help him, and we see her kind of dealing with her negative self-image and perception and saying that she needs to be alone. And that was a nice kind of moment of her going through that before unlocking her powers. Going through, she utilizes it mainly more as a kind of shielding thing and helping him protecting Kudo before the Emperor's like, I'm gonna do this shit, and then this kind of weird snake man kind of thing, and she kind of like blasts at him and he fucking like dies. I'm like, see, it's the execution that's off enough for me. I don't mind Mio utilizing her powers, but and being strong in her powers would be like, I didn't think I'd be able to do that. It's just kind of weird and kind of more out of nowhere for me of how it kind of works out. It just needed to be executed better. I'm not adverse to how they kind of do it, but I kind of rather just Mio had like pulled Kudo out of it instead of having this thing where like, oh, the Emperor's dead, and or kind of really kind of fucked up because it looked like he blew the fuck up with what was kind of going on before the son, I guess, ascends and takes his place as the Emperor. I don't know. But that's the thing. It wasn't that important to me. So even though it kind of goes crazy, I'm like, I'm just more into like the Kudo and Mio kind of thing of them just getting to know each other and understanding their feelings and seeing how they kind of react as being husband and wife. I don't mind the political intrigue, but that shouldn't kind of take over the focus, if that makes sense. It should be a value add to the story that creates certain kind of drama and conflicts that they need to overcome, rather than just popping up and taking over certain kind of aspects and being like, Emperor does not want this. It's like, okay, but we kind of need more time and shit for that. And I kind of just want to see her kind of deal with not being treated like shit and just seeing her kind of heal. That's kind of the vibe that I thought was going to kind of be happening through this before we start getting, hey, here's this kind of like nutty, crazy supernatural power thing and these kind of power structures that are in there. It's like, we need a little bit more to do with this. Holy shit. Not that I'm against that stuff. It's just what's presented and how it kind of works out and what we've kind of been getting to that point doesn't support it as well as it should. Not that it doesn't, but it just needed to be done a little bit better for me. But I would still recommend it. I still think that the characters of Mio and Kudo are really interesting of understanding what's kind of going on and how they kind of interact and what they kind of do in this world. And it's definitely has nice kind of lore and world building potential, so I definitely recommend it for characters and the plot for that, for them. And Action's not bad, though it gets kind of samey in the end, where they just didn't spend as much time on Kudos, where they just pretty much give him some CGI kind of monsters to kind of fight with certain kind of power sets. It's a lot of the stuff beforehand where they get really kind of more creative with the use of supernatural abilities. So going in with even certain kind of action expectations, they still do a very, I wouldn't say decent, a good job with the action scenes as well. Now, granted, don't go into this being like, it's gonna be a shonen motherfucker action all the time. That's not this. This is more of, if you're more into the plot and the characters and the plot, you'll get nice added extra action in with that for your value add. If you're like, I just want to see action, this I would not recommend for you. Though granted, if you're like tapped out with stuff and want kind of a weird palate cleanser on that front, I would definitely recommend this. And just have it on in the background and be like, ooh, interesting kind of action going on. But yeah, I really think it's good. I would recommend this anime to pretty much, well, not young ones, because you'd have to like be like, hey, that's a kind of monster dead thing with fighting supernatural powers, and there's like kind of heavy kind of shit like abuse and everything that has to be dealt with. So you'd really have to like talk to whoever's kind of going into this and be like, be careful with this. But I would definitely recommend it because it's got good overall story, characters, animation's great. I love the quality of it. Opening and ending songs are pretty good. Like, I didn't hear any kind of music that drew me out of it or whatnot. They did a very good job of making sure sound and everything worked well to what they were presenting. Yeah, I don't really talk about sound that much. But, like, when it's done well, that's the whole thing. It just adds to the package and you're like, alright, cool. This works. So, yeah, I would definitely recommend this one. So, those are my opinions on the anime. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.